Last night, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell put off consideration of health care legislation after it was announced that Senator John McCain had surgery to remove a blood clot from above his left eye. Republicans are struggling to pass a revised bill, which some say still doesn't go far enough to repeal and replace Obamacare. Joining me now, one of the biggest critics, Senator Rand Paul. Senator, let's start with the bottom line. Whenever it comes up, whenever Senator McCain is in good health and comes back, does Senate Majority Leader McConnell have the votes to pass this revised bill?
You know, I don't think right now he does. And the real problem we have is, we won 4 elections on repealing Obamacare. But this bill keeps most of the Obamacare taxes, keeps most of the regulations, keeps most of the subsidies, and creates something that Republicans have never been for, and that's a giant insurance bailout super fund. That's not a Republican idea to give taxpayer money to a private industry that already makes $15 billion in profit.
So if this bill does not pass, what happens?
Well, you know what I've suggested to the president, and I talked to the president again, when he was in Paris just this last weekend, or I guess on Friday. And I've told him I think we can still, if this comes to an impasse, I think if the president jumps into the fray and says, look, guys, you promised to repeal it, let's just repeal what we can agree to, and then we can continue to try to fix, replace, or whatever has to happen afterwards. But the one thing we should do is try to repeal as many of the taxes, as many of the regulations, and as many of the mandates as we possibly can. I still think the entire 52 of us could get together on a more narrow, clean repeal, and I think it still can be done.
Now, this is a change of heart, because back in January, you said that you had told the president, and he agreed with you, that you needed to repeal and replace at the same time.
Well, it's interesting that it's not. I'm still for replace. It's just my definition of replace is a lot different than some of the big government Republicans. My idea always was to replace it with freedom. Legalize choice, legalize inexpensive insurance, allow people to join associations to buy their insurance. I'm still for all of those, and I think those that could actually be part of clean repeal. In fact, most of the ideas I've had on letting people join groups to buy their insurance, letting the plumber and his wife join a large group like the Chamber of Commerce, those ideas are actually welcomed by virtually every Republican. That passed in the House of Representatives unanimously.
Here's what President Trump says in his weekly address this weekend about the merits of the current new revised bill.
The Senate health care bill stops the Obamacare disaster, expands choice, and drives down costs.
Is the president wrong, Senator?
I would caution about overselling what's going to happen. I've been involved with health care for 20 years as a physician. It was in terrible shape before Obamacare. It got worse under Obamacare. And I predict that the fundamental flaw of Obamacare will remain with the Republican plan. And this is a big reason why I can't support it. The fundamental flaw is that mandates on insurance cause prices to rise, and young, healthy people then say, hey, I'll just wait till I get sick. And the insurance pool gets sicker and sicker. It's called adverse selection. We also call it the death spiral. The Republican plan admits that it will continue. They just say, hey, guys, we're going to subsidize it. We're going to dump billions of dollars into the insurance companies and say, please charge less, and try to counteract the death spiral. But the Republican plan doesn't fix the death spiral of Obamacare. It simply subsidizes it.
Yeah, I understand. And I think everybody would agree that this bill does not repeal Obamacare, does not fix all of the problems with it. But here is why conservatives say it is still worth supporting. It is, they contend, the most significant Medicaid reform ever. It turns an open-ended entitlement into a block grant for states. Compared to current law, it cuts Medicaid spending $772 billion by 2026. Are you willing, Senator, to see all of that go down the drain?
I think that some of the Medicaid reform is probably good. Slowing down the rate of growth is what they do to Medicaid. They don't actually cut, so I think that's the wrong term to use. But they do slow down the rate of growth. A lot of the slowdown in rate of growth doesn't kick in until years 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I've seen the way things work in Washington, and the sad thing is we do these 10-year plans. They kind of remind me of the Soviet 5-year agricultural plans. They're kind of a fiction. We do the things in the first 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years, and then by the time we get to 7 or 8 or year 9, there's a new Congress, maybe there's Democrats, and then the whole Medicaid reform goes out the window. But the bottom line is I'm not willing to trade Medicaid reform for an insurance company bailout, an insurance company entitlement. They call it a temporary stabilization fund of nearly $200 billion. It's never going away because they do not fix the death spiral of Obamacare. The death spiral of Obamacare will remain with the Republican plan, and that's why I just can't support it as it's written.
Now, you say that given the balance of power and the way the votes are lining up, that you'd like to see a straight repeal at this point and then try to fix it later. Your Republican colleagues say, 1, there are not 51 votes for a straight repeal, and 2, if you do that, and then you, as you say, try to fix it later, then, because it's not going to be part of budget reconciliation, you're going to need 60 votes, you're going to have to work with Democrats, and you're going to end up with a lot of stuff that's even more liberal.
Well, there is a way we can do it. We do a more narrow, cleaner repeal, but we can also, at the same time, put forward a bill that has some of the big-ticket spending items that conservatives object to. I will vote against that, but there are many bills that all the Democrats always vote for. If it has government spending on it, Democrats vote for it. So there's a chance we could take the things that I object to on the repeal bill that aren't repealed, that are big government spending, put them on a bill that Democrats typically vote for. One is called S-CHIP. It's a reaffirmation of like Medicaid for children. It'll be a big spending bill, and if they want to spend billions on bailing out the insurance company, they could do that with Democrats, because in all likelihood Democrats will vote for that. Conservatives will vote against an insurance bailout, but we'd have a clean repeal, and then we'd have a spending bill, and they could actually be advanced simultaneously, really on the same day. Moderates would get what they want, which is more debt for the country, more spending. Conservatives will get what we want, a clean repeal, which is really the only thing we promised in the election, and we promised it over and over again. So it kind of annoys me that Republicans are going back on their word to repeal Obamacare.
Let's do a lightning round. Quick questions, quick answers, because there are a number of ideas, as it looks like the Senate Republicans may be deadlocked on what can be done to try to break the logjam. First of all, Ted Cruz has gotten a measure put into the bill that says that insurers can put out skinnier, what they call skinnier, cheaper plans, fewer benefits for healthy people, as long as they put out at least one plan that has all of the health benefits required by Obamacare. What's wrong with that?
I'm for more choice, so in general I've been supportive of the Cruz Amendment. However, the Cruz Amendment will still be in the context of having the fundamental flaw of Obamacare, which are all these mandates. So adverse selection will continue even with the Cruz Amendment, and some have argued it will be made worse. Cruz himself says, oh, you know what, we're going to have to increase government subsidies to insurance companies to stabilize prices. Well, that's just not a very Republican idea to have taxpayer money going to a private industry. The insurance companies make $15 billion a year. So I'm generally for the idea of the amendment because it gives more freedom. But it's in the context of a bill that still has the fundamental flaw, still retains the death spiral of Obamacare, so ultimately it won't work. And I tell people, Republicans don't understand this. When they pass this, they're going to completely own health care, and people have been unhappy with health care ever since I've been in medicine. One, because of the large sort of bullying way that we're treated by insurance companies, denying everything. You know, my family alone, we fight tooth and nail to get our insurance company to cover anything. I'm like the rest of America. We're frustrated with insurance companies charging us through the roof and then not paying for the stuff that we need when we go to the doctor.
Senator, let me just explain again. The idea of the lightning round is quick questions and quick answers. So let me ask you one other quick one, which was that Senators Cassidy and Graham are now saying go the federalism route and let each state decide what they want. Here it is.
We're going to take that $500 billion and through some kind of formula, give it to the states and say the following. If you want to repair Obamacare, you can repair it. If you want to replace it, you can replace it.
Briefly, what's wrong with that?
Well, the problem is Obamacare was $1 trillion tax increase. If you tell me it's federalism to increase taxes by $1 trillion, collect them in Washington, and then send them back to be spent by the states, that's not really federalism. Federalism would be devolving the power and the size and scope of the federal government to the states, and I'm all for that. But I think their proposal would, I don't know exactly what it is as far as what it will do with the regulations. Does it wipe out all the regulations of Obamacare? What happens to the regulations?
I think it's up to the states. Let me ask you
one. It sounds like a non-starter.
Let me ask you one last question. I got 30 seconds left for this one. Some of your colleagues say, look, if this goes down, you're going to end up with Obamacare because this is it. It's either this or Obamacare. You'd rather keep Obamacare?
I think that the current system is terrible. The death spiral of Obamacare is unwinding the whole system, and it will continue to unwind. But I don't think Republicans should put their name on this, keep part of Obamacare, and then we're going to be blamed for the rest of the unwinding of Obamacare. It's a really bad political strategy, and it's not going to fix the problem.
Senator Paul, thank you. Thanks for joining us. We'll watch what happens on the Hill when it finally does come to a vote, and it's always a pleasure to talk with you, sir.